Hi, Sophie. Hi, everyone. We've got a few people registered for our webinar today, so we'll just wait a couple of minutes till everyone gets here before we start. But yeah, thanks for coming. You can pop in the chat where you're coming from and what country you're on. I'm here in on Wurundjeri country in Naarm in Melbourne, and you might be able to see behind me. I've got the River Birrarung, which is also known as the Yarra River. Behind me, which is near where I live. So far we got about 20 people. I think we've had over 100 people register for this event, which is great because even if people aren't able to come, they will get the recording and be able to access all the materials as well. So some people are here from Samoa, Talofa from Samoa, Gadigal land. So I think that's Sydney, Eora Nation, and we've got another person from Wellington, Aotearoa, and Northern Rivers of New South Wales, Bundjalung country. So got some people from lots of different places. We'll just wait another minute. And we've got someone from Minjin, which is Brisbane, I believe, as well, or Cambodia. Welcome. Well, hopefully we live up to your expectations for this webinar. We're going to talk about the NatureSuite, which we've developed to help people who want to integrate nature into their work and their programs, which you'll hear about shortly. All right, I reckon because we've only got an hour, we will start. We've got around 23 people. So welcome. I'm pleased to come to you from Wurundjeri country in Naarm in Melbourne. I'm Charlotte. I work at WWF Australia, and the webinar today is about NatureSuite, which are a set of tools that can be used to support nature-based solutions programming, and there are 3 tools. This has been funded by the Climate Resilient by Nature Knowledge Hub, and that's a program that's been funded by DFAT for the last 4 years, and the first phase is coming to a close. I assume I can change the slides, which I'm doing. Can everyone see the acknowledgement to country? Maybe Patrick, can you just, yeah, great.
Yes.
So yeah, I would like to acknowledge country, and everyone seems to be doing that in the chat, and to say that I'm here on Wurundjeri country, and I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and say really that their continuing connection to culture and country is a real lesson, and an invitation to us all to really consider nature and country and where we live, all the soils, the land, the seas, the trees, the air, and to work together with nature and people to restore and bring it back to full life, and that's what we're here to do. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that in your work. But this is the agenda. As I said, we've only got an hour together. We're going to talk about what NatureSuite is, how to use the various tools. We won't, unfortunately, have time to go into practicing the tools. We've done that in other webinars when we were developing the tools. We'll also have a couple of case studies from ActionAid and from WWF on how the tools have been used so far. We'll have a Q&A straight after the tools demonstration, and then some time at the end for reflection and discussion. But before we get into that, I did want to introduce my co-presenters, or people who are going to be you're going to be able to see as we go along. And first off, I'd like to introduce Patrick Bolt from Banyoneer. And Patrick has been the chief architect of the NatureSuite, and you may know him from the Resilience Radar, and unashamedly would like to say that we use that as a very successful tool, and tools that come with the radar to really adapt for nature-based solutions. And you'll find out more about that in a moment. But thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us. And Patrick's coming in from Adelaide. And then we also have Sophie Ford, who's a head of programs at ActionAid Australia. And she is going to be talking about how they have been using the radar tool in particular, and where they see that going in the future. Before we go into the tools, because I know that's what you're all waiting for, we did want to do a little bit of a poll, and it's in the chat, but also on the screen if you do have another device. And it's a Menti poll. We'd like you to answer some questions. And some of you put this in the chat, so you can put it in Mentimeter or in the chat if you're having issues with Mentimeter. But where are you joining us from today? What is the focus of your work? And why did you decide to join this webinar today? What's your area of interest? Why are you interested in working with nature? And what stage are you at in your nature or nature-based solutions journey? And have you already used the NatureSuite? So as you can see on the screen, we've got some answers here. We've got people from lots of places in Australia, but also Solomon Islands and New Zealand. And I think there was someone, there's lots of people from Australia and Queensland, and it's great to see all the traditional names. Oh, Cambodia, that's what I was trying to remember. So we've got someone here from Cambodia as well. Let's go to the next slide. What is the focus of your work? So let's have a look at that in terms of what sorts of things are people doing. I can't see anything come up yet. So, here we go. Coastal engineering. Oh, fabulous. So as we know, there is hard infrastructure, or as we know, grey infrastructure, but there's also green infrastructure. So nature can really help us with that. We've got inclusive conservation, smallholder farmers, MBS programs themselves, nature-based solutions in the Pacific. So nature-based solutions can work for all sectors, really, whether you're working in disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, livelihoods, disaster risk reduction, health, water, sanitation. There's really nature really has the answers to so many of our societal challenges. So learning how to work with nature is super, super important. Let's go to the next slide. And the next question is, why are you here? So no answers coming up yet, but I see they're going to pop up in a minute. Some of the answers are, I'm new to MBS and want introduction. I'm joining on behalf of my team. I want to learn about what high integrity MBS looks like. I'm already doing this type of work and want to get better, and other answers. So we've got a variety of answers. Seems to be that lots of people are already doing this work, which is great, but also we've got people who are new. So hopefully what we go through today will provide you with some of the answers, whether you're a beginner or someone who's already doing this work. Let's go to the next slide. And the next question was, what stage are you at in your nature or nature-based journey? So are you a beginner? Are you working in international development or community development, and you're wanting to integrate nature more? Or you're already doing this work and you're wanting to have some tools that really help you do this work? So we've got some new starters. Well, they're the quick starters. They're the ones who answer the question first. So yeah, we've got a wide section of people across the spectrum. There's always room for improvement. Okay, and I think, the last question I think is, have you used the NatureSuite before? So let's see who has already used it before. Veronica, I'm not sure if you're able to get to that slide.
Sorry, there seems to be an issue with that slide. So maybe we can get people to pop that in the chat, a yes or no, if you've used the tool before.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, thanks. Yes, have you used NatureSuite before? And the reason we're asking that question is because we developed this tool not in isolation. We've worked with lots of different organizations, mainly through the ACFID community of practice, the climate policy and practice community of practice. That's been really useful for informing the tools, particularly the radar, which is the most comprehensive tool that you can use for monitoring, evaluation, and learning, baseline, midline, and endline, etc. Okay, I'm now going to quickly talk about, Veronica will share the slide, but very briefly, where these tools came from. Why is it that we developed these tools? And it's really because of the Climate Resilient by Nature program. And that program, which is the first phase is coming to the end. But it was launched in November 2021 and is a $21.2 million program, so quite sizable. Although I have to say, it didn't start out like that. It was much smaller and it's had various extensions. And it's been funded by the Australian government in partnership with WWF Australia. And really, it's about advancing high integrity, equitable nature-based solutions to climate change, predominantly in the Indo-Pacific region. So 9 partners, 9 countries, and most of the implementation for those partners is either finished or finished this month, and then we'll wrap up formally with our final report at the end of June. So we've got WWF Pacific, WWF Mekong, ActionAid, World Vision, Live and Learn, NACAO, Kama Foundation, Save the Children, and Caritas and CRS have all been involved in this program. And an evaluation has been commissioned and is almost finished. We've got the final report, and we'll be publishing that soon. And there'll also be a webinar related to that. So NatureSuite came from CRBN, and when we got an extension, an 18-month extension for the program, we wanted to really look at, was kind of like a midterm, I guess, look at how we were going. And the original program was set up rather quickly, and some of the things that you would normally do if you had a longer design period weren't done. So we wanted to take the opportunity in the extension phase to really assess how we were going across a bunch of criteria, some of them kind of technical criteria related specific to nature-based solutions and in terms of benefits for people, benefits for nature, benefits for climate, but also the other enabling kind of areas. And so we developed a very basic Excel spreadsheet that we got all partners to use. It took them about 2 hours to self-assess, and then we came together and chatted about where are the areas they're doing well, not so well, and what might we like to concentrate on in the 18-month extension period. So that's where it came from. And then we talked to Patrick quite early on and said, we would like to share what we've learned with others outside of CRBN. And feedback from partners basically said that would be a great idea for the sector. So we developed 3 tools, and these are tools to really help you on that journey. So I'm going to hand over to Patrick so he can share the tools, and we'll have some Q&A afterwards, but there'll be about a 15-20 minute presentation going through all the tools, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions. So over to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and hi everyone. Let's have a look at the NatureSuite. So as Charlotte already said, we have 3 tools: the Nature Ready, Nature Stream, and Nature Radar. And in this presentation, I will go briefly through the tools A and B. We're not going to look at the tools in the actual Excel file. And then finally, on the Nature Radar, we will actually have a look at the tool itself and go into the Excel. So the NatureSuite is designed for development practitioners and aims to support you in efforts to work with nature. We realize, of course, that everybody is at a different state, and I think the Mentimeter showed that the audience today is quite mixed, so that's wonderful. There's something there for everyone. Benefits. Why should you use it? So all of the 3 tools help you in self-assessing your state of play in working with nature. They help you to
Patrick,
identify...
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I don't know if we can see the slides changing on your side. Did you want to just try taking control of the slides?
Hang on, I might just open all. Can you see that now?
I can't. Maybe I'll stop sharing and then if you want to reshare them.
Okay, I'll share from
If
my
you have
end.
it, that might just be better. Sorry.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you see this now?
Yeah, that's good. It's the slide that says the NatureSuite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Yeah, so they help you to identify strengths and gaps and may assist your teams in enhancing your engagement with nature in various ways. The tools are different, but they share some common features. First of all, they are all based on a simple Excel sheet or set of sheets. So you can download the files and get started. There is no need to register. So once you've downloaded it, you can do with it whatever you want. They come with question sheets, and in each question sheet, there are answers that you can select from drop-down menus. There are also explainers that help you to select the most appropriate answers. And then once you're done, and this is one caveat, you must actually answer all the questions. You can't leave a question unanswered. There will be an error notice. Once you're done, you will see scores visualized in different types of charts. And there are also some resources and recommendations in each of the tools. Finally, all the tools include different glossaries so that you can look up some of the aspects or terms that you may not be quite familiar with yet. So here's an overview of the tool. The first tool, Nature Ready, is for those who are quite new to nature-based solutions. And it should help you and your organization to understand how you can best get started with NBS programming and actions to get nature ready. It's quite easy. It's only 26 questions, and you can usually do this in 10 minutes or less. And it includes two sections. One is about your organization and one is about your context. So it asks things about what is your status in terms of planning, in terms of capacity? Do you have trained people in certain relevant aspects? To what extent have you worked with different development partners, ministries for the environment and others? To what extent do you understand relevant policy as well that may be useful for going towards implementing NBS? At the end, once you have completed it, you will receive a score and sub-scores for all the 6 aspects covered under this. And there are some recommendations and resources that you can then follow on and use to get ready for NBS or increase your readiness. The second tool, Nature Stream, addresses all of those who are already implementing different types of development projects, humanitarian projects. And I know that there are many projects around. And in my experience as an evaluator, I often found that there are sometimes the natural resource management aspect is sometimes not looked at well enough. So there are many ways you can mainstream natural aspects into a regular disaster risk reduction or livelihood or other projects. And this tool will help you on that journey. It's a bit longer than Nature Ready. Takes about 30 minutes and covers 3 sections. Now, importantly, the third part, so we have organization, communities, and activities. Activities is broken down into 6 different types of activity clusters. I know that every project is different. So if you focus, for example, on livelihoods and food security, or if you focus on health or disaster risk reduction, all of these sectors are covered, but there's always a screening question, because you may not work on all these particular aspects in a specific project. At the end of NatureStream, you will receive a score and subscores, as well as recommendations and resources. And then finally, the most complex tool, Nature Radar, is for those who are already implementing nature-based solutions. And it basically provides a scan with scores for all 10 dimensions. Maybe you are familiar with the IUCN global standard for nature-based solutions. So these 10 dimensions that shape the Nature Radar are very much aligned with that standard. It is a bit longer, so it takes 90 minutes or so to complete it, and has almost 80 questions. Critically, in the Nature Radar, it is most effective if you use it multiple times. So you can use the Nature Radar as a baseline, midline, and endline, and then see how you are improving over time. All right, maybe that much for now. That's the overview. So let's have a brief look at Nature Ready. The first tool, it comes with a welcome sheet and explains how it works, and a short glossary. Now, for this very first part, the glossary is quite short. And then this is what the question sheet looks like. So on the left side, you have the question, and then the cell where you would click select your answer. If you click on it, you see the drop-down options, and there are some explainers on the right. So it covers your implementation records, your technical capabilities, internal planning, partnerships, policy contexts, and the mapping of opportunities for nature-based solutions. When you're done, it will give you the score. So you have the overall score that is shown on the bottom left on the slide, where it says high 67%. And it shows the sub-scores as well for the different aspects, both here with numbers and color codes, as well as in bar charts on the right. And that's not all. It comes with some sort of generic recommendations. Basically, the logic here is that the scores that you have scored lowest on so far, those are aspects maybe that are worth looking at first with some priority. There's also on the very right of this sheet, you see the resources. So if you click on the link, you will see and can access those directly. So that's the short first tool. Next comes NatureStream. Again, we start with a welcome page. What I should mention, we have in all three tools, there is a little button. Click here to start the survey. So once you have used the one of the tools or all of the tools, you can actually complete that, and there is a survey, because we would like to learn from you as well, so that we can improve the tools in the future. All right, we have the guidance, we have a glossary, and you will notice this is a little bit longer than the previous one. And then we come to the questions sheet. Now here you have, again, the same logic. Question that you put in your answer. You have this additional column, evidence. What is the basis for your rating? So this is optional, but you can actually say, you know, this is based on survey results and so on, something that makes it more easy for others to understand why you rate it, why you gave a specific answer. So it covers, under your organization, it covers your environmental standards, your supply chain, like to what extent do you use, do you factor in nature positive aspects or into your supply chain. and your project, how it was designed and what is covered in it. The next part covers your communities. To what extent have environmental risks been assessed and are present? What about natural resource management? What about the status of solid waste management? And what about environmental awareness in education? All of these aspects are potential areas where you, if you are already pursuing a development project, may see whether you can integrate and mainstream some nature positive aspects into these. The third part, the third component of this sheet is about your activities. As I mentioned earlier, there are these different activity clusters. So for example, the very first one here is construction. I'll put them all up at the top. And under it, the first question is, does your project include any construction activities? If you will say no to this one, you don't have to complete the questions C1.2 and C1.3. Yes, and again, questions depending on your answer, this will influence your respective scores. Now, once you are completed with the question sheet, you get to the results sheet, and again, you will find this colorful visualization that shows you the scores for all aspects and sub-aspects, and it also shows it to you in bar charts on the right. So the results indicate potential priority areas that you may focus on to bring in nature into your current project. And again, we have a set of resources, for example, on your supply chain, on environmental standards, project foundations, and much else. Finally, we come to the biggest tool, Nature Radar. So when it's completed, it will look like this, or slightly different. We have the 10 dimensions on the outer side. You see solution-focused planning, benefits for people and communities, benefits for nature, and so on. 10 in total. And you can see 3 different patterns, a red one, a yellow one, and a green one. The first one showing the results of a baseline, the second one of a midline, and the third one, the green one, of an endline. So you can compare, if you have used it 3 times, you can compare different data sets. It's the most advanced tool, I already said that, and it's really targeting those who are already quite familiar and are implementing projects with NBS. And let's have a closer look at the tool itself. So I'm going to quickly stop sharing. This one and go to a new one. Okay, can you see this screen, an Excel file?
Yep, we can.
Good, perfect. So at the very bottom, you see different tabs. You see something called cover, welcome, and so on. So the welcome sheet, the first one that we're on at the moment, again, comes with the basic introduction, and it includes the glossary. Next, we have the sheet for baseline. Similar logic as the one that I previously explained. So you have here the different drop downs for each question. You can enter your evidence. You can look at the explainers as well. And you have the same one again for the midline, for the second iteration, as well as for the end line. So I have completed this except for 4 questions. So let's look at these 4 questions about solution-focused planning. So to what extent have communities been involved in the process of local assessments and prioritization of community challenges? So we have here our options. Let's say the process was community-led. Perfect. Next, to what extent does the NBS design address the challenges identified by the community? Let's say mostly, for now. To what extent have communities been involved in the design of the NBS? Let's say fully. And to what extent are communities plan to be engaged in the implementation and monitoring of NBS? Let's say fully. So now we have completed this sheet and we go to the results. And here we have our results. So visualized in the chart that I showed before. So basically, the further a data point is towards the outer ring, the higher the score. And in addition, we have also at the bottom, we have the numerical values and the respective ratings, as well as on the right-hand side, a comparison over time. Finally, it comes with resources. So, for example, we have here the global standard with download links. And this shows you also which of the 10 dimensions that we talked about are addressed by a particular resource. So we have something here from the IFRC or from the Nature Conservancy, from WWF and others. All right, maybe that's it in terms of the presentation. I hope that was a good brief overview. Thank you. Back to you, Charlotte.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I can't believe you covered so much in such a short period of time. I also can't believe, and I put this in the chat, that this is all Excel. This is not what Excel normally looks like in my world. My Excel world is very basic. So thank you so much for all your efforts in that area. You know, the tools are very much designed to be of support, and they're not, this is like the first version, but we will adapt them and improve them as time goes on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's open up to Q&A. So you can either put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. But I also believe that Veronica is going to unmute us all so we can all be more involved. So any questions of clarification or questions about the use of the tool, or even comments on what's your initial kind of reflections? And please don't be shy.
Maybe while we're waiting and people are thinking, one thing I should add, we have a guidance note for this tool as well. So there are lots of aspects covered in an 8-page document that shows addresses many aspects. Yeah,
that's right. And I think the link to the website, the webpage, which has all of the tools on there that are downloadable, plus the guidance note, and also a little very short video for those who prefer a visual format. I can't believe we don't have any questions. Please ask us some questions, because I'm sure you have them. You know, you could talk about your particular project. Would it work for this project? This is what we're currently doing, etc., etc. Okay, Kristen, sorry, has a question. Kristen, would you like to come off mute, or would you prefer me to, I'm sick of my own voice, basically. So if you can come off mute and ask your question, that would be excellent.
Yeah, I can ask that. It was more just for my own interest, what other tools are available and the specific benefits and differences to this tool, and potentially part of that as well as any like limitations where you might see it couldn't be used.
Yeah, I can answer that question, and Patrick might want to chime in. The reason we developed this tool is because we didn't find any tools that we found useful. The IUCN has a self-assessment tool, but it's very involved and it takes quite a long time to do. And as practitioners, we're always super busy. and we wanted something that was going to be more useful for us. Of course, our initial motivator was the CRBN program, but after developing a quick and dirty tool for that, we realized it had broader appeal, which is why this tool does align with the IUCN global standards, but we think that it's a more usable, user-friendly tool. While there's a second version of the IUCN standards come out, we are going to have a look at how it best aligns with that, because we know there were some gaps in the initial global standards. So in terms of benefits, yeah, really it's there's 3 different types of tools, so you don't have to be fully on board with MBS to get started. The tools are much quicker. However, you know, jumping into the radar with a third tool, it is still quite involved. But you can choose which sections if you want to discuss certain sections, and 3 of them are very much focused on MBS technical aspects. The rest are more on the enabling environment around decision making and power and inclusion, enabling environment and things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
And maybe in addition, if I may, there are of course lots of additional tools. Some of them we have referenced in the last sheet, in the resources sheet of the Nature Radar. For example, they include also the NBS Benefits Explorer or the NBS Valuation Tool, but they have slightly different scopes and purposes. Anyway, there's an overview, I think, in that resources sheet on the Nature Radar page.
Yep. John, I think John Clemmer has his hand up. John, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, kia ora. My name's John. I work at the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and help to manage a number of our climate and ecosystem focused activities. And one of these is the Promoting Pacific Island Nature-Based Solutions program, which is with, we're partnering with IUCN on that.
Yes.
And there's a bit of work being done currently. I think Live and Learn is planning to support it on kind of contextualizing the global standard within the Pacific.
Yes.
It looks like there's kind of areas where there could be some duplication here. Do you have any suggestions around how we could enable, you know, really like much smaller community groups, CSOs, those kind of doing on the ground delivery to be able to kind of provide guidance at that level in a real kind of Pacific contextualized way for those who may not necessarily have the knowledge to be able to kind of engage with these slightly bigger tools, if that makes sense? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. So we're also part of the Pacific Island Roundtable, which Pippin and others are part of, and IUCN and Nature Conservancy, etc. And the discussion around the global standards and making them more Pacific context focused was really resonated with us. So we have tried to integrate that into these tools, but then still make them globally relevant. But our focus is very much the Asia Pacific region. I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail later. Well, actually not in detail, but our next step is to develop community level, a tool, a version of the radar, which is probably where we would have liked to have started. But the motivation for developing the original tool was around the extension phase of CRBN. So very much focused on how do program managers do that work with communities. So yeah, the next stage will be a community-based tool. We have shared and included others outside of CRBN and WWF. I mentioned ACFID, but also the Pacific Island Roundtable and MBS and the broader WWF network, because there is not a proliferation, but similar to 20 years ago when we started talking about climate change and climate change adaptation, there was a rush to develop tools so people could use. And now there's, you know, for climate change adaptation, there's so many, it can be quite confusing. That's not our intention. But of course, you know, it's about how do people know about these tools, hence having this webinar and spreading the word about the tools. So yeah, hopefully people find them useful and you know, there's an uptake, but they're not static either. We're still very much at the beginning, not the beginning of the journey, but we're at the early stages of this journey on MBS. And when I say we, I mean the sector. So these tools will be improved upon over the years, I'm sure of it. And if we can influence others, including IUCN, that would be fantastic as well. Thanks, John. Other questions or comments? No. Patrick, you want to say something?
No. No, I mean, I think the only thing I would like to say, I'd really like to encourage everyone to try it out. And when you have done so, to use the survey link and provide us some feedback.
Okay.
That would be
Yeah.
greatly appreciated.
All right.
Thanks.
So that's great. So what we might do now is, Veronica, if you can share the slides again, is we're going to hear from ActionAid, from Sophie, and she's going to share a little bit about you know, the impetus for them using the tools and what's come of that. So over to you, Sophie.
Thanks, Charlotte. Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie Ford. I'm the Head of Programs at ActionAid Australia. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we use these tools when we were designing our Pacific Circle program. So this Pacific Circle program is a new program that we're currently in the appraisal phase of with the Kiwa Initiative. So for those of you who don't know, the Kiwa Initiative is a multi-donor fund that's supporting nature-based solutions across the Pacific. ActionAid was shortlisted with partners in the Pacific, and we're currently working through that appraisal phase. So when we got to having to do a lot more detail around thinking through the nature-based solutions, we found that WWF's tools were super useful, and specifically we used the the Nature Radar tool. And we found the tool really easy to use, and it was also really easy for our Pacific partners to kind of understand. We were very lucky that we had Charlotte holding our hand through this process. So Charlotte came and gave an explanation of the tool to our partners, and we worked it through. We did the initial kind of working through of the radar tool together. So for those of you who haven't kind of delved into the detail, the tool basically asks you 3 questions to really think about when you're designing your NBS intervention. So it's how does your intervention support nature, and what are the environmental benefits? How does it support climate change adaptation? And how does it support communities addressing societal challenges, whether they be gender, disability, equity, those kind of issues? So those kind of 3 questions really helped our partners to refine their NBS activities as we went through this process. They had a lot of kind of broad activities when we put in the initial program design, but as we worked through the radar, we were able to really kind of refine and look again whether the interventions they'd planned really supported those 3, you know, we could answer those 3 questions. And as a result, we kind of developed our own little matrix, which I guess back to John's question, that was kind of something we felt worked really well for our Pacific partners, where it was kind of a simpler version where we just prompted them on those 3 questions. Yeah, so I guess the next stage, the next thing we're thinking, we're still in this appraisal phase. For anyone who's going for the Kiwa grant, I recommend you put aside a long time, because the appraisal phase is pretty extensive. But once we get through it and sign the grant, our plan is to use the Nature Radar tool for our monitoring and evaluation as well. So we'd really like to use it initially as the baseline, and then to keep using the tool as we work through the program. So we'll also use it for a midline, use it as an end line. But yeah, just to reiterate that we found it really useful. It was very accessible to our partners in the Pacific across 4 countries, and really helped us kind of think through the details as we designed the NBS solutions. So I'll just hand back to Charlotte.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Yeah, it's been fantastic working with ActionAid on a real life example. And we've been exploring that with some other organisations as well. What I really liked is that, you know, we talk about the Nature Radar being around baseline, midline and endline, but of course, for existing projects. But of course, it's very, very beneficial to use this tool at the concept or proposal or design stage, because we kind of used it with ActionAid as a bit of a checklist. So while there are 10 criteria, and we were able to move through some of the criteria really quickly, particularly around, GEDC, empowerment, around decision making, etc. Some of the things that ActionAid is very well known for. It was more useful when we came to the more NBS technical areas. So really honing down the design and finding the gaps. It was very clear from their original design that there was very strong on outcomes for people and communities, but it's about how do you balance outcomes for people, but also outcomes for nature. Because while nature-based solutions are a people-centered approach, and it's about how does nature help us address societal challenges or challenges that people face, whether they're climate-related, disaster-related, food or water security-related, and we want nature to help us to do that. We also want there to be outcomes and benefits for nature as well. And so using the tool really helped us balance that out and manage the trade-offs to say, we've really got things covered in terms of benefits for people, but how is nature going to benefit from this program? And that's what's great, because you've got organizations who are stronger on conservation or traditionally working on conservation who need strengthening in the people side of things. And so that's what's really great about it. And it worked really well for them. So let's move on to, I kind of alluded to this based on John's question, I think, but our next step is in the next six months or so is we wanted to develop a community-led tool, community-based tool, because participatory MEL or MEL that communities themselves can lead is so very important, because our projects only last a certain amount of time. We want something that the communities can use themselves, that they drive themselves to assess how they're going on solving some of their societal challenges, working with nature. So that's the plan. As I said, CRBN phase 1 is coming to a close. There is a second phase focused on the Mekong region, which is where we worked in phase 1 as well. So we're going to be working with those countries plus Solomon Islands, because we have a kind of a second phase of CRBN there as well. And we're going to be working with those communities to develop a second tool, not a second tool, a community-based tool. Now, we're very early stages for that. We've just secured some financing for that. But what we are interested in is to hear if any other organizations are interested in that as well. Not necessarily to do the in-depth ground community level work, but to perhaps test or provide advice on the tool to make sure we're heading in the right direction. Yeah, we're hoping to get that done in the next 6 months. Not predisposing, what's going to be in there, but obviously using what we've done so far as a guidance. Yeah, so yeah, keen to hear if anyone's got any reflections on either of those case studies before we head into a bit of a reflection and discussion. So does anyone have any questions or comments, or those things resonate with you? Okay, all right. So we're coming to the kind of end of this session, and thank you so much for spending the time with us. As we said, this will be recorded. There's links to the tool and the various tools and the various guidance, and a video that you can access. You can also contact us, and maybe I'll get Veronica to put my email address in the chat as well if people want to follow up individually as well, particularly if you're interested in the community-based tool. So I know we haven't been super chatty, but we'd really love to hear from you in terms of what are your reflections? How are these tools helpful to you? How might you use them in the future? And would you be interested in being involved with a community-based tool? So you can pop that in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves and let us know. And while people are summoning the courage, I would just in response to one of the questions that Tiara asked. Yeah, the tool isn't about selecting specific NBS. However, when we used it with ActionAid, it does tell you if that MBS, it does help you, it doesn't tell you, it does help you understand if you're on the right track. Obviously, there's another process that you would go through to design an MBS, and actually there is some WWF guidance on that that's in the resources of the radar, and IFRC have some that's focused on disaster risk reduction as well. But we don't have, this tool does not do that. It really helps you assess what you've already got and identify some of those gaps and provides recommendations how to improve that. That's the radar. Yeah. All right. If there's no more questions or comments, we'll probably we'll bring this to a close. And there is a survey to provide feedback on the tool itself, but you need to use the tools first. So in case that wasn't obvious, you go in there and have a look at the tools. My suggestion would be, if you're new to this, go to the first tool, which is Nature Ready. If you've got a program or a project that you're implementing at the moment and you think, you know what, I think we're missing something here. We really need to be working with nature, because some of the work that we're doing is not really benefiting nature. That could be like a livelihoods program or a DRR program or even a WASH program. Go into the nature stream and have a look, and you'll probably see various entry points for you to work more in partnership with nature. And then obviously, if you've got an MBS project already happening, you can have a look at the radar. But also, if you haven't and you're wanting to design something, just looking at the 10 criteria is going to be really, really helpful for you. Because if you, like, you know, you've got the radar and you've got these 10 kind of pieces of cake. If you can design a project that covers all those 10 areas, you're going to be doing very well. And it'll probably be an easier place for you to start than going straight into the IUCN self-assessment tool. Yeah. I think that's it. Any final messages from you, Patrick, Sophie, or Veronica before we close this?
From my side, just thank you very much for the interest. I can see there is some feedback in the chat. So yes, good and encouraging. And I hope that it is useful and easy to use in practice. Thank you very much. And back to you, Charlotte.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, encourage you to use the tools. Reach out if you need any support. As I said, we are helping other organizations do this work. I guess WWF as an organization, success for us is seeing other development organizations who traditionally don't work with nature taking this on, because MBS is about how can nature help us solve societal challenges, but in a way that nature benefits as well as people. So if we can all be doing that, we're going to be in a much better place in the world. So yeah, really encourage you to have a go. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Charlotte, thanks, Patrick.
No worries.
Thank you so much.